looking really well.
Thank
your
you.
hair.
Huh?
You screw your hair down more often.
Oh, I don't know.
Isn't that sea hiking?
It is. It's lovely. It's really good. Yeah, it's nice to have friends come to visit.
Are you still missing Scilly, or is it
I am.
ancient history now?
I am. No, I keep thinking about this new surgery building and trying to work out how they can afford to have a permanent vet nurse. Yeah, I do miss Scilly a lot. It's home. You always miss home when you're away, aren't you? So.
Is there any chance that you might be able to afford a nurse?
Well, I have to see. Once I don't pay any rent anymore, and, you know, if it perks up a little bit, you know,
I'm
maybe.
quite cheap to maintain.
Would you come back if
Yeah.
Heike could afford it?
Yeah. I am coming back. I promise. I'm coming back.
Okay.
Sarah's move from Scilly also had big consequences for another important person in her life. The move spelt the end of her relationship with boyfriend Greg. Since Sarah left, Greg has remained on the islands at something of a loose end. He's managed to earn a bit of cash helping out his father Nigel at the Airfare Cafe up at the airport. And doing odd jobs around the island, whilst he struggles to decide what on earth to do next. Greg's had doubts about his decision not to follow Sarah to the mainland and has been seeking the advice of the island's minister, David Easton.
And have you found it tough since, or you think it's the right decision?
I do find it a little tough, but I do think it's the right decision. She's a really nice girl, but she knows what she wants to do, and she knows where she is. And she's got more answers than I do. So I can't really be totally there for her. If I wanted to start a family, I would want to provide for the family. And I don't think I could do that at this point.
But you don't feel ready to settle down yet?
No, not at the moment. This is quite an ideal place to end up, I think, but I'm just not ready for it at the moment.
Scilly is a quiet place where people have time to think, and some people come here to sort out their lives or to think about what they want to do, or some people move here thinking this is where they want to be for the rest of their lives. It doesn't always work out that way, of course. Sometimes people find living in a small community difficult, or think that the wider world's got something to offer them. And I guess Greg is like that too. He likes it here, but he also recognises there is a wider world, and he's a young person, but he's not quite sure what he does want to do elsewhere.
Down by the harbour, and Fraser and his bosun Sally are preparing for an evening trip. Fraser's leading a flotilla of packed spectator boats following the regular summer gig rowing races between the islands. But poor Sally seems more frail than ever. It's beginning to look as if tonight will be her last voyage ever with Fraser. Fraser's cousin Joe knows how much Sally means to him.
With Sally, he's got quite a strong bond there, and she is a fantastic dog as well. You know, the whole litter was nice. I had one from the same litter.
You get a sense Sally's pretty old now. She probably won't be going out with Fraser.
Old age, I'm afraid. He's caught up with Sally.
So what's Fraser going to be like when she's no longer around?
He'll be lost. He'll be lost. Yeah.
So, for Fraser and Sally, it looks like the end of an era. As it turns out, though, this extraordinary bond between boatman and old sea dog will have an unexpected outcome. A few days later, and the subject of dogs is also on Heike's mind as she makes her way home to Scilly after her trip to the mainland. She and her son Sammy are bringing with them a brand new member of the family. This is Jasper, a rescue dog from the city in need of a good home. Heike's been keen to get a new dog quickly because Sammy was very upset by the death of their beloved bull terrier, Leo.
It must be nice for you to have him here in this house.
Absolutely. I think a dog belongs here. I really think so. And he looks good. Splendid fellow, don't you think?
So you're pleased?
Yes, I'm pleased. It was a bit of a hassle to get it from Bristol, but, you know, I want to get the right dog. And also a dog that can grow up with Sammy.
New dog.
New dog, new
beginning.
time, new beginning, exactly. Yeah.
Heike is aware that because of his past, Jasper may have behavioural problems. And as an animal lover, she wants to help. On the face of it, he seems to be amiable enough. But as he gets to know his new home, Jasper's nature suddenly changes. Oh dear. Heike can only hope that she hasn't made a terrible mistake.
No! No! Oh, Sammy's crying. No! No! No!
These days, tourism is the lifeblood of the islands. And just looking around you, you'd think that Scilly's surviving the harsh economic times relatively unscathed. But even in the good years, there's very little long-term employment for young people. There's some regular work for the young men on the boats, but even that's very seasonal. And many people survive as just one-man bands. This summer, though, even thriving businesses like Toby's Bakery up on St Martin's are feeling the pinch.
During the day I've been on my own, whereas normally I'd have one or possibly even two helpers. I decided to dispense with one employee this time of the season to save money, and so I'm having to do a lot of things that I wouldn't normally have to do myself, really, but I look forward towards the end of September when things quieten down, really.
This lack of regular work has been very much on the mind of young Greg. And he's now reluctantly come to the conclusion he must leave the islands. Today he's joining his dad Nigel, his partner Carol, Heike and Sammy on a final boat trip on Scilly. As a treat, Nigel's taking them all to one of the most idyllic locations in Britain for a farewell picnic for Greg. This is the uninhabited Cylonian island of Sampson, and it looks exactly the same as it must have done for centuries. Just mile after mile of unspoilt, unpolluted beaches. There aren't even any quays or pontoons. Jasper, very much on probation, has been allowed to come too, and his first ever trip on the water seems to have calmed him down.
Heike, Jasper looks as though he's enjoying himself.
You think?
He's a natural sailor.
Well, his heart is pounding. I'm sure it's the first time that he's ever been in a rowing boat. But he will get used to this.
He is an island dog, is he?
Yeah, from now on. Yeah, I can feel it.
A decent dog would jump in and tow us.
It may appear that Jasper's settling down, but Heike knows his adjustment to such a different way of life could be a very long process. Today's farewell picnic is an emotional moment for Nigel and son Greg. After Nigel's divorce, Greg emigrated to Canada with his mother, and father and son didn't see each other for 8 years. These last 12 months they've had together have been a special time for them both.
It's a difficult thing when you suddenly have a son coming to live with you. It's not that I felt terribly paternal, but I felt very fond of him.
And that friendship's really blossomed.
Yeah, yes, it has. Yeah, we get on really well. It's been a lovely year, got lovely things to remember. But there really isn't that much for him here, and I think he needs to move on and look elsewhere.
It's difficult for young people on Scilly, isn't it?
It is. There isn't the same sort of variety of jobs that you get on the mainland. And career-wise, I think he needs a bigger scope than there is here. He needs to get out there and just see what there is. He's getting a little bit stir-crazy here, and he wants to go off and see what else there is in the world, as you would.
So now it's time for Scilly to say goodbye to Greg.
See you later. Thanks for everything.
It's a pleasure.
Did it already?
Good.
Hello. You ready for the next stage of your journey?
Yes.
His dad's taking him to the mainland, from where Greg hopes to use his computer skills to get a job abroad. His friends and family know it'll probably be a very long time indeed before they see him again. On the other side of the island, some rather unfamiliar sounds are emanating from the home of smallholder Pam Manning. Pam was born in Wales, and she's taking time out to put the Reverend David Easton through his paces with the Welsh national anthem. It's a skill David will definitely be requiring for the future. After all the pain and difficulties of the past months, David at last has something to celebrate. What's the news, David?
Well, the latest news is that I'm now definitely going to Aberystwyth.
You are definitely.
Yes, going to Ceredigion.
So you won over those Welsh-speaking people.
Won over the floating voters, yes. Yes, I don't know, my Welsh didn't win them over, I'm quite sure of that. But yes, they were a lovely bunch of people, actually. Yes, very nice. I'm looking forward to going there very much.
How do you feel about it all now, then?
I feel great, actually. I'm really looking forward. It's given me a sort of a new lease of life and new challenges.
I haven't seen you smiling so much for ages.
Well, there you are, you see. Happy thoughts.
Now you need 3 ounces of fruit. 3 ounces, lovely. Tip it in.
Right.
3 ounces of castor sugar.
3 ounces.
David's proving an enthusiastic student of all things Welsh.
Welsh cakes are really the food of angels.
Pam's got him in the kitchen for his next lesson in how to endear himself to the natives.
It's a very acceptable custom to offer people these, so when you have people around, David, offer them a cup of tea and a Welsh cake and they'll be well impressed.
Bendithiad ir ar glywith chwi, which is the Lord bless you, I think.
Do you want to taste one now?
I will.
Go for it.
This is the moment. No, very good, actually, if I say so myself.
Oh, no, they're lovely. They're good. Well done. Well done.
So, with David's future secured, where does that leave the islanders? What news of a replacement? And when he or she eventually arrives to take up their new post, how will they take to the unique life on England's remotest community? In the next programme, Fraser finds himself the unexpected master of hounds at one of the island's biggest summer get-togethers.
They got the dog lookalikes as well. That's going to be a bit delicate as well, isn't it? Going to have to be careful with that one.
And the head of the Methodist Church in Cornwall, the Reverend Steve Wilde, prepares for a crucial mission.
There's a spiritual vacuum, really, on the Isles of Scilly. David's about to leave, and I want to be there, really. I want to pray on the island. I want to be alongside people and just to listen, just to gauge the temperature, really, of where we are at the moment. It's been very unsettling for the people on the Scillies.
On the Isles of Scilly, the countdown has started to the departure of the much-loved minister, David Easton. Yet his workload seems bigger than ever.
I've heard lots of people who've gone through difficult times in their lives who've said they thank God for other people, for strength, for courage, for hope when there doesn't seem to be any hope.
David's meeting a young couple who urgently need his help before he leaves the islands in a few weeks' time.
I'm sure your church in Bulgaria might be slightly different from what we do here.
You know, the timing of it, it's a bit late notice for David, probably. So yeah, as I say, we're just hoping that everything's going to be okay and we can go ahead with it.
Meanwhile, the minister's boss, the Reverend Steve Wilde, has found a replacement for David. Steve knows it's one of the most difficult appointments in the church and can only hope he's made the right decision.
He doesn't know anything about the Isles of Scilly or island life?
No, nothing about island life. The Isles of Scilly is going to be a big risk in some ways, but then faith is spelt R-I-S-K, you know. I mean, it is a risk.
On the face of it, life on the Isles of Scilly is looking rosy as the holidaymakers continue to pour in and the season, against all expectations, continues to shape up well. The churches are packed. It's a curious fact that many people who would never normally go to church do so when on holiday. So the Methodist minister, David Easton, is busier than ever.
Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you.
Enjoy your holiday.
But in fact, beneath the surface, everything is far from normal. Back at his home across the road from the chapel, David is busy preparing to leave. Under Methodist rules, David must abide by the decision of the small group of church representatives to replace him, so he's now packing his bags. David's due to start his new job in Wales in a few weeks.
I'm decluttering, not a job I really like doing very much because I'm an inveterate hoarder. I've been here 7 years and there's some stuff here I haven't touched the whole of that time, so I really ought to get rid of it. My trouble is I find getting rid of it rather difficult because I think, well, you know, that's got some life in it yet, hasn't it, really? And should I throw that away or should it go to a charity shop? Unpacking all this rubbish here is a way of coming to terms with your move. You know, when you are bereaved or moving on in life, things can happen suddenly or you can prepare for them, and this is a preparation. And that's actually quite good for you. It helps you to come to terms with it and say, yeah, well, I am moving on, and, you know, literally I can see all this stuff here, and I think, well, yeah, that's helped me to come to terms with the fact that I am moving on and letting go. I think letting go is actually quite important, and this is part of letting go, isn't it? Oh, yes. When I was...
Have you used that on Scilly?
No, I haven't used this for at least 15 years. But I mean to. One day I will get out there.
Over on the mainland, David's boss, the head of the Methodist Church in Cornwall, the Reverend Steve Wilde, is in a hurry to get over to Scilly. He wants to give the islanders details of David's replacement and reassure them over their fears for the future.
Hello, love, good morning. There's a spiritual vacuum, really, on the Isles of Scilly. David's about to leave, and I want to be there, really. I want to pray on the island. I want to be alongside people and just to listen, just to gauge the temperature, really, of where we are at the moment.
Because you're the one constant here, aren't you?
Yes, that's my role. Yes, that's right. I've got to be a constant for them, and I've got to be there that they feel that there's somebody they can turn to, and that I do care for them spiritually. I want them to know that God cares, and I've got to show that.
There's a bit of an uncertain future for them, isn't it, at the moment?
It is. It's a funny place to be, and I want to feel really that I can reassure them that it's going to be okay. God's with them, and it'll be sorted out. But I do